Hello students, in previous class we have studied up to section 365, that was about angle of friction. I hope you have enjoyed it and learned a lot of things from there. Now in today's class we will start from section 366, that is angle of repose. Whatever video I am making, it is for the year 2021, okay, which is of reduced portions, okay. Fine, so as you can see here on an inclined plane as in figure 3.29, a box is placed on an inclined plane and the forces acting on this box are mg vertically downward and normal reaction in acting perpendicular on the surface of contact, okay. Then when we resolve this mg in its x-axis component and y-axis component, we will get mg sin theta towards x-axis, okay, and mg cos theta towards y-axis. Here the axis is chosen in such a way that x-axis lies just parallel to the inclined surface and y-axis lies perpendicular to this inclined surface. Here the angle of inclination is theta, okay. So once we resolve this mg in its x and y-axis components, after that we not have to look about this, we just have to look on its components, okay. And also the force, when this box will move downward, a friction force between the contact surfaces will act opposite to the direction of motion, that is Fs, okay. It is given here Fs max, okay. That means the box is staying here and because of the friction it is not moving downward, and the maximum friction acting here is Fx max, which is opposite in the direction of mg sin theta. So here if you have to write the equation of motion, it will become mg sin theta minus Fs max is equal to ma. Okay, here a is the acceleration by which the object is moving downward. Fine. Coming to our section 366, that is angle of repose. Okay, consider an inclined plane on which an object is placed as shown in the figure below. Let the angle which this plane makes with the horizontal be theta. So as you can see here, this angle here is theta. The place where my cursor is moving, we are moving, okay. Here we can see this angle is theta, which is the angle of inclination, okay. For a small angle of theta, the object will not slide down, okay. If suppose the theta is very small, the object will not slide down. As theta is increased for a particular value, okay, the object begins to slide. Means up to some particular value of theta, the object will not slide down. Once the angle become more than that minimum value, then only the object will slide down, okay. So here we can see that there is some minimum value of theta, maximum value of theta up to which the object will not move in downward direction or not slide down. This value is called the angle of repose. So there the maximum angle up to which the object will not move downward is called as angle of repose of this inclined plane. Hence the angle of repose is the angle of inclined plane with the horizontal such that an object placed on it begins to slide. Means just the angle becomes greater than that, okay, the object will start sliding downward, okay. So there we can say that maximum angle will become equal to the or give the Fs max or limiting friction, okay. Let us consider the various forces acting here on this object, okay. The gravitational force mg will act perfectly vertically downward and it may be resolved into its components. One is parallel to the inclined surface and one is perpendicular to the inclined surface. That is, the parallel component will be mg sin theta and perpendicular component will be mg cos theta, okay. The component of force parallel to inclined plane mg sin theta tries to move the object down, okay. So as we can see here, here mg cos theta will balance normal force, okay, that is n is equal to mg cos theta. They are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. That is why the object is not jumping in upward or moving downward inside the plane, okay. It is moving in downward direction, okay, that is towards parallel to the inclined surface. Okay, so here the force by which the object is moving downward will be mg sin theta minus fs, or mg, the component, parallel component of mg in inclined surface, mg sin theta will act on the object and try to move it in downward direction. Okay, the component of force perpendicular to the inclined plane, that is mg cos theta, is balancing the normal force n, that is n is equal to mg cos theta, as you can see in this figure 3.29. Fine. When the object just begins to move, the static friction attains its maximum value, means just before the object was about to move, okay, the value of friction or the static friction is maximum. So we can say that Fs is equal to Fx max, okay, and Fs max formula is mu s into n, or at the place of n we can write mg cos theta. So we will have Fs is equal to Fs max is equal to mu s mg cos theta. Here mu s is the coefficient of kinetic friction and it depends on plane to plane, okay, means for different plane the value of mu s will be different. Okay, g is the gravitational acceleration, m is the mass of the body, and theta is the angle of inclined surface. Okay, this friction also satisfies the relation, that is Fs max is equal to mg sin theta. Okay, because the object is stable here at rest, that means in downward direction and in upward direction parallel to the inclined surface, okay, is equal. Okay, that is mg sin theta is equal to Fs max. Okay, equal and opposite forces acting here, that is why the object is not moving in any direction. Okay, so just divide equation 3.35 and 3.36 with each other. Okay, we will get mu s is equal to sin theta by cos theta, or mu s is equal to tan theta. From the definition of angle of friction, we also know that tan theta is equal to mu s. Okay, so here theta is the angle of friction. Okay, thus the angle of repose is same as the angle of friction in this case, but the difference is that the angle of repose refers to inclined surfaces and the angle of friction is applicable to any type of surface. Okay, always keep in mind that angle of repose is equal to angle of inclined surface, but the difference is that the angle of repose refers to inclined surfaces. Okay, means only for inclined surface we will have angle of repose, but angle of friction may be for any type of surface, whether it is perfectly horizontal, vertical, or inclined at any angle theta. Okay, so here a solution is given. You must try this example 3.20, how to find it out, all the things. Right. Now going to application of angle of repose. Okay, what are the applications or what are the uses of angle of repose? Let me check whether it is in your current course or not. Yes, it is. Section 366, 367 and 368 are in your course. Fine. Application of angle of repose. First is Antlions make the traps in such a way that when an insect enters the edge of the trap, it starts to slide downward the bottom where the antlion hides itself. So as you can see here, okay, the anthills are made, okay, and it is made in such a way that the angle is kept such a way that once any insect comes to the edge, it slides downward where antlion is hiding, and that trap becomes the meal of antlion. The angle of inclination of sand trap is made to be equal to the angle of repose, and so anything which comes here will slide inside, okay, inward, and it will become a very good supper for antlion, as you can see in this figure. Okay, antlion is here, okay, and if any other insect like ant, if it comes, okay, the angle is made in such a way that it will slide down inward where antlion hides itself, and it will become the great meal of or a party for the antlion. Then children are fond of playing on sliding board. Okay, sliding will be easier when the angle of inclination of the board is greater than angle of repose. Okay, so as you can see here, okay, these types of inclination are made in such a way that the angle of inclination must be greater than the angle of repose, and it will become very cheerful for the kids playing here. Alright, at the same time, if inclination angle is much larger than the angle of repose, the slider will reach the bottom at greater speed and get hurt. Okay, so it is inclined in such a way that the child sliding down should not get hurt. Okay, so here some activities are given how to find out the coefficient of friction. Okay, not need to read it because it is not in your current portion, or if you want to go through it, you can go. Okay, it will give you some extra knowledge. Then there comes section 368, and that is about the rolling friction. Okay, whenever we move, okay, or try to move, we have there a static friction or kinetic friction. But whenever the ball bearing moves, okay, or the wheel moves, okay, then there we will have rolling friction. Means whenever one surface, okay, rolls over the other surface. The invention of wheel plays a crucial role in human civilization, and if you have remembered in class 10th you have studied in social that invention of wheel has just dramatized the civilization. One of the important applications is suitcases with rolling on coasters. Okay, suitcase with roller coasters, it is very easy to move very heavier objects putting in suitcase, okay, at railway stations or airports. Rolling wheels makes it easier than carrying luggage. Okay, we not have to lift, we just have to pull or push and it will roll very easily. When an object moves on a surface, essentially it is sliding on it, but wheels move on the surface through rolling motion. The motion of wheels is just like it is rolling there. Okay, 1 minute, let me erase these things. In the rolling motion, when a wheel moves on a surface, the point of contact with surface is always at rest. Okay, keep in mind this thing. Whenever the wheel rolls on any surface, the point of contact of the wheel to the surface is at rest. Okay, momentarily. Okay, and the other parts are moving. Since the point of contact is at rest, there is no relative motion between the wheel and the surface, and hence the frictional force here is so less that we not have to exert any kind of force there or extra force there. Okay, the frictional force is there negligibly less. At the same time, if an object moves without a wheel, there is a relative motion between the object and the surface. Okay, whether if you are pulling the object or pushing, as given here in figure 3.32. okay, in first figure, okay, there are some rollers, okay, and on which a log is put, and when in second figure we have a wooden log which is just kept on the surface. So as you can see here, the point of contact in first situation is very less as with respect to the point of contact in second figure, and so it becomes easier to push the object, push this wooden log, okay, or pull it when it is kept on a roller, and we no need to exert very high energy, okay, very high force. But here, as it is kept on the surface in second figure, okay, the surface in contact is large, and so we need to exert extra force because of very high amount of frictional force acts there. As a result, frictional force is larger. This makes it difficult to move the object. The figures 3.32 shows the differences between rolling and kinetic friction. So here you can see that in first figure we have here the friction acting between the point of contact of the roller and the surface, okay, is your rolling friction, and in second one here, because the object is moving, okay, the friction working here is kinetic friction. So we have seen in previous video and in today's video three types of friction. One is static friction, then kinetic friction, and then rolling friction. Okay, if you see in magnitude, static friction magnitude is highest, then lesser is in case of static friction, and in rolling friction it is the least. Okay, then section 3, 1 minute. After section 368, we not have to go through method of reducing friction. We not have to go through section 369. The next topic is section 3.7. 3.7. Let us see what is given in section 3.7. Okay, dynamics of circular motion. Okay, means if the object moves in a circle, what are the forces acting there? Okay, and how can we find out the different physical quantities like angular velocity, angular momentum, and a lot of other things. Okay, so let us see here what are the things given. Okay, centripetal force. We have to study section 3.7, 371, 372, and 373. Okay, in section 371 we have centripetal force. In section 372, okay, we have here vehicle on a level circular road, and then in section 373 we have banking of tracks. Okay, and after that what are the topics given, we not need to go through it. Okay, I am going through these things from the old book. Okay, in new book the section number and the page number will be different, but the topic is same, the material is same. Okay, so please find it out at which section and in which page these topics are given. Fine, so let us start section 3.7. let me come to it. Okay, section 3.7, that is dynamics of circular motion. In the previous sections we have studied how to analyze linear motion using Newton's law. Okay, and there we have seen three different laws of motion, and we infer, okay, what are the terms we get from Newton's law of motion. From Newton's first law of motion we get inertia of motion, inertia of direction, and inertia of rest, those three things. Okay, from Newton's second law of motion we get F is directly proportional to rate of change of momentum, or F is equal to dp by dt, and F is equal to ma, force is equal to mass into acceleration. Okay, then from third law we get action reaction pair, that is F of 2 on 1 is equal to minus of F of 1 on 2. Fine, so there all those things related were given in the with the help of, or in the case of linear motion, when the object was moving, okay, in a straight line. It is also important to know how to apply Newton's law to circular motion, since circular motion is one of the very common types of motion that we come across in our daily life. Okay, in our day-to-day life we come a lot of examples come across which we have circular motion. Okay, a particle can be linear motion with or without any external force. Okay, in class I have taught you that if a force is applied on any object, okay, the three things may happen. Because of applying the force, the object hasn't moved, because in that situation the inertia value of inertia of rest is more than that of force, or the friction is more than that of applied force. First. Second is, if a force is applied, okay, the object will change its direction, okay, or change its velocity, that is in the case of acceleration. And the third one is when net force acting on the body is zero and the object keeps on moving with a constant velocity. Okay, but when circular motion occurs, there must necessarily be some force acting on the object. Okay, whenever we have a linear motion, it may be possible that no net force acting on the object. Okay, in case of if velocity remains constant, okay, it may be possible that net force is equal to zero, but even though the object is moving. But in case of circular motion, without any external force, okay, the object will not move in a circular path, or there must be net force, either force or net force acting on the object, so that it will change its path at any instant. There is no Newton's first law for circular motion. Please keep in mind, Newton's first law is invalid in circular motion. In other words, without a force, circular motion cannot occur in nature. A force can change the velocity of a particle in three different ways. Okay, either the velocity will increase, or velocity will decrease, or its direction will change. The magnitude of the velocity can be changed without changing the direction of the velocity. In this case, the particle will move in the same direction but with acceleration. Means as the velocity will change, its it will have some acceleration. Okay, for example, particle falling down vertically, bike moving in a straight road with acceleration. whenever the particle falls down vertically downward, okay, because of acceleration due to gravity, its velocity keep on increasing. Even though acceleration remains constant, velocity keeps on increasing. Okay. Likewise, if a biker is changing his velocity on a straight path, okay, we say that the bike is moving in an acceleration. With an acceleration, the direction of motion alone can be changed without changing the magnitude. Means we keep the speed constant, but we change the direction of the object at every instant. Okay, in that situation also we will have acceleration. Velocity is constant, but acceleration we will have. If this happens continuously, then we call it uniform circular motion. Means if suppose the magnitude of the speed is constant but the direction is changing, in that situation the acceleration is called as uniform circular motion. Okay. And the third is when both the direction and magnitude of the velocity can be changed. In that way also the particle will move in a circular path. If this happens, non-circular motion occurs. Okay. For example, oscillation of a swing or given pendulum, elliptical motion of planets around the sun, etc. Okay. About elliptical motion of planet, you will not have to study in next lessons, which you have to study in the topic Kepler's planetary motion. In this section, we will deal with uniform circular motion and non-uniform circular motion. Okay. Now coming to section 371, that is centripetal force. Okay. Without any force, acceleration will not happen. For acceleration, force is needed, and when the object keep going on a circular path, okay, an external force is acting on it. Okay. If a particle is in uniform circular motion, there must be centripetal acceleration towards the center of the circle. Always keep in mind that if the particle is moving in any circular path, okay, the force acting on the particle will be called as centripetal force, and its direction will be towards the center of the circle. Okay, as you can see here, the particle here is moving in circular motion, but the force acting here is in the direction of the center. Okay, and here in this case it is the tension applied by the buoy on this stone which is connected to the thread. Okay, about centripetal force we already have studied in previous chapter, so I hope you might have remembered all those topics. If not, just go to my previous videos and you can get it there. If there is acceleration, then there must be some force acting on it with respect to internal frame. Once again, if there is acceleration, there must be some force acting on it with respect to an inertial frame. Okay, inertial frames are those frames which have no acceleration or which is moving with constant velocity. As we have seen in chapter 2, previous chapter, the centripetal acceleration of the particle in the circular motion is given by A is equal to V square by R, where V is the linear velocity and R is the radius of the circular path. Okay, and it acts towards center of the circle. According to Newton's second law, the centripetal force is given by, we just have F is equal to ma, so Cp here means centripetal. Okay, force centripetal. Cp just suggests more centripetal. So centripetal force Fcp is equal to MACP. Okay, that is mass into centripetal acceleration, and acceleration is equal to V square by R. So we just can say that Fcp is equal to mv square by R. So the word centripetal force means center seeking force, or the force acting towards the center, and its magnitude is equal to mv square by R. In vector notation, we will have Fcp is equal to minus mv square by R into R cap. Okay. For uniform circular motion, we have Fcp is equal to minus m omega square R into R cap. Here we have given the direction negative, or we have taken minus R cap. This points towards the center. Okay, if we take the direction away from center, okay, it will be taken as positive, and if we are taking towards the center, means from outward to inward, okay, it is taken as negative. Okay, as shown in this figure 3.38. It should be noted that centripetal force is not other force like gravitational force or spring force. Okay, gravitational force and spring force are totally different. It can be said as force towards center. Okay, that means centripetal force means force towards center. The origin of centripetal force can be gravitational force, tension in the string, frictional force, Coulomb force, etc. Any of these forces can act as centripetal force. Always remember that. So in case here, as we have simulated that here, the centripetal force acting on this ball or on this stone is given by tension. That is, here tension is equal to centripetal force, or we can write T is equal to minus mv square by r into r cap. Okay. Now let us see some example. In case of whirling motion of a stone tied to a string, the centripetal force on the particle is provided by the tensional force on the string. In circular motion in an amusement park, the centripetal force is provided by the tension in the iron rods. You might have gone to some amusement park, water park, and there when you enjoy on the swing, there the centripetal force, okay, towards the center is provided by the tension of the rope, tension in the ropes. Okay, the motion of satellites around the earth, whether it is a natural satellite like moon or any artificial satellite, okay, the gravitational force on the satellites, okay, acts as centripetal force. From Newton's second law of motion, we will have F is equal to Earth's gravitational force is equal to mv square by r, where r is the distance from the center of earth to that celestial object, okay, or to that satellite. Okay, so as you can see here, if you have gone to this type of amusement park, okay, you can see that everybody is going round and round, and here the centripetal force provided, okay, to each and everybody is because of the tension in the ropes. Okay, and let us see. When a car is moving on a circular track, the centripetal force is given by the frictional force between the road and the tires. So as you can see here, this car in second figure, okay, is moving in a circular path. Okay, so in that situation, the force acting on this car is because of frictional force between the tires and the roads. Okay, Newton's second law for this case is frictional force is equal to mv square by r, where m is mass of the car, v is speed of the car, and r is the radius of curvature of track. Even when the car moves on a curved track, the car experiences the centripetal force which is provided by the frictional force between the surface and the tire of the car, as shown in figure 3.241. Okay, whenever we see any circular path, it should not be any circle, it may be in any curve. Okay, so as you can see here, at point of my cursor, okay, that blue color car, as it is moving in this curve, which is curved towards right side, okay, there the centripetal force will act towards the center of right hand side circle, and here in the upper part, that saffron color car, okay, the centripetal force will act towards the left hand side center. When the planets orbit around the sun, they experience centripetal force towards the center of the sun. Here, gravitational force of the sun acts as centripetal force on the planet, as shown in this figure 3.42. So here we have seen that centripetal force may be tensional force, frictional force, or gravitational force. It is not any other kind of force. Okay, Newton's second law for this motion is given by gravitational force of the sun on the planet is equal to mv square by r. Okay, so I hope you have understood all these things. Okay, then section 372, that is vehicles on a level circular road. Okay, so here you can see in this yellow color car in second figure, the vehicle is moving in a path, on a path where the path is lying perfectly horizontal and is curved towards right hand side, so its center will be towards left hand side, and the friction acting on this car is towards center at left hand side. Okay, and that will be because of friction between the tires and the road. When a vehicle travels in a curved path, there must be a centripetal force acting on it. This centripetal force is provided by the frictional force between the tire and the surface of the road. Consider a vehicle of mass m, whatever it is, moving with velocity v in a circular track of radius r. There are three forces acting on the vehicle when it moves as shown in figure 3.43. So as you can see here, okay, the car is moving in here. In first figure it is in a straight line, and in second figure it is moving in a circular path. Okay, now see what are the forces acting here on the cars. First, gravitational force mg acting downwards, normal force n acting upwards, and frictional force acting horizontally inwards along the road. Okay, in second figure. In first figure we have if suppose in first figure the car is moving with constant velocity, then we will have forces acting here are normal reaction n upward and weight mg downward. Okay, then a force forward and friction backward, which makes net force 0. Okay, and the car is moving with velocity, constant velocity. In second figure, the forces acting are mg downward, normal reaction or normal force upward, and the frictional force, okay, towards the center, and that will be the centripetal force. Okay, and that acts between the surface of contact, that means between the tires and the road. Suppose the road is horizontal, then normal force on the gravitational and the rotational force are exactly equal and opposite. Okay, the centripetal force is provided by the force of a static friction Fs between the tire and surface of the road, which acts towards the center of the circular track. Okay, so we can say that the centripetal force here is because of the friction, and so mv square by r is equal to Fs. Okay, that is frictional force, static friction. Okay, as we have already seen in the previous section, the static friction can increase from 0t to some maximum value. So we can write Fs is less than equal to μs into mg. There are two conditions possible. If suppose mv square by r is less than or equal to μs into mg, or μs is greater than or equal to v square by rg, or root μs rg is greater than or equal to v. Okay, these are the terms for safe term. Safe term is without sliding. Okay, the static friction would be able to provide the necessary centripetal force to bend the car on the road. So the coefficient of a static friction between the tire and the surface of road determines what maximum speed the car has to for safe turn. Okay, if suppose we have mv square by r greater than μs mg, or μs is lesser than v square by rg, in that situation the outward force will be more and inward force will be less, and so the car will skid outward. If the static friction is not able to provide enough centripetal force to turn, the vehicle will start to skid. So there must be some safe reason, safe value for which the car will not move away or inward on that circular path. Okay, now there comes banking of roads. This is, I think, the last topic. Yes, this is the last topic for unit 3, banking of roads. In a level circular road, level circular road means when it is perfectly horizontal but in circle. Skidding mainly depends on the coefficient of static friction μs. The coefficient of static friction depends on the nature of surface, which has a maximum limiting value. Okay, to avoid this problem, usually the outer edge of the road is slightly raised compared to inner, as shown in figure 3.42. So as you can see here, okay, the outer edge is little bit higher than that of inner edge. Okay, and you can say that this angle by which it is high is equal to theta. This is called banking of roads or tracks. This introduces an inclination and the angle is called as banking angle. Whenever banking of roads are done, okay, the banking angle is made in such a way that there will be some minimum and maximum value for speed by which any vehicle will move on that road. It will not skid inward or outward. Okay, So let us see what are the forces acting when the car is moving in a circular path with banking. Let the surface of the road makes angle theta with horizontal surface. Okay, so as it is given here, this theta is the angle of banking. Then the normal force makes same angle theta with the vertical. When the car takes a turn, there are two forces acting on the car, that is mg downward and normal in perpendicular to the surface of contact. We can resolve the normal force into two components, that is n cos theta and n sin theta, as shown in the figure below. Okay, so how it can be resolved? So n cos theta will act upward or perpendicular to the ground, not to the road, and n sin theta towards left hand side, as you can see in this figure. Okay, then the component n cos theta balances the downward gravitational force mg, and component n sin theta will provide the necessary centripetal acceleration. Okay, so as you can see here, just a minute. So as you can see here, n cos theta is equal to mg, and the necessary centripetal force is equal to n sin theta. Now let us use the Newton's second law, that is forces acting on which direction and what are its magnitude, and let us try to evaluate it. So we will have n cos theta equal to mg, and n sin theta, that is in inward direction, that is the centripetal force. So n sin theta equal to mv square by r. Dividing first and second, n and n will cancel out, and we will get tan theta is equal to v square by rg, or v is equal to square root of rg tan theta. The banking angle theta and radius of curvature of the road or tracks determine the safe speed of the car at the turning. If the speed of car exceeds at this safe speed, then the car starts to skid outward, but frictional force comes into effect and provides the additional centripetal force to prevent the outward skidding. At the same time, if the speed of the car is little lesser than safe speed, it starts to skid inward, and a frictional force comes into effect which reduces centripetal force to prevent inward skidding. However, if the speed of the vehicle is sufficiently greater than the correct speed, then frictional force cannot stop the car for skidding. Okay, either outward or inward. Okay, so everything must be in limit. Okay, so then in section 374 we have centrifugal force, which is not in your present syllabus. So here unit 3 has finished, and please watch this video, because in next class, either online or offline class, I will go after this portion. That means I will start unit 4. Let me check what are the things given in unit 4. 1 minute. So please subscribe, like and share my YouTube channel, and if you have any doubt, okay, on the things which I teach you via online classes, okay, please comment that in the comment section, and all the questions will be answered by me personally. Okay, so 1 minute, let me check what is the next lesson. This lesson is actually very interesting and I like this lesson, but if you have to go in all, means your juniors who have to study all the portions, for them the class is going to be very interesting. Okay, fine. So next unit is work, force and power, work, energy and power. About force we have already studied in the previous 2 units. Okay, and also in this unit a lot of topics are removed. Okay, so we will start this in our classroom. So till our next video, I don't know from here what are the questions will be done in classroom and what are the questions will come online, but till our classroom, okay, take care of yourself. Bye bye.